Shine your light, shine, shine, shine your light, shine, shine, shine.
Hello, it's Nancy Maddox on WYTV7, Christian Broadcasters Network in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm broadcasting on Shine Your Light Radio Ministry in Little Rock, Arkansas. And my very, very special guest is Manisa Jackson. She is a published author. I've had her on the show before, and I'm so excited to have her back again. We have some exciting news in her Speechless series, which is her book. She's published her second book, so we're going to talk a little bit about the first one and the second one today, so I'm so excited. But let me first say that WYTV7 is a nonprofit. We do take donations, and our donations go to promote the broadcast, the shows like this, internationally. Our shows do go up on iHeart, and we do put them on YouTube, so there is a lot of exposure. We have a lot of people in other countries that are watching and listening to our shows. So I'm really excited about that. So I wanted to let you know about WYTV7. And Shine Your Light Radio Ministry is a ministry that will allow people to come on and let me interview them so we can shine their light to the world. And what I try to do is promote whatever it is, that their cause or their ministry or their book, whatever it is, so they can get more exposure and help other people. So that's what this is all about. Without further ado, let's get started with Miss Manisa Jackson. And let's talk a little bit about your first book, The Spirit. First of all, it's called the Speechless series. So let's talk a little bit about the Speechless series and exactly what that means and how that works, Miss Jackson.
Okay, well, the Speechless series is, I came up with it because a lot of people want you to be honest with them. And 9 times out of 10, when you're completely 100% honest, it leaves you speechless. So that's where the concept Speechless came up. I have 2 books. The first one, and I don't know if you guys have taken a look at the covers of my books, but it's pretty much, her goal is to be transparent. And the series is just really getting it all out there. Everything that she's holding inside and has bottled up in her head is just actually being honest and putting it out there, and letting everybody else know that it's okay to do so.
Okay. And so what about the second book as we go on? The first book is called hashtag Nostalgic Bliss. And that was the one you were just talking about. We've interviewed you before on that. So I'm glad you gave us a refresher course on that. And by the way, I love the cover. The cover is fabulous. Hold it up one more time for us, Miss Jackson. There you go. See, it's awesome. And so the second book that you've written is just getting ready to come out, is already out, is called hashtag Uneasy Thoughts.
Yes.
Let's go into that a little bit and talk about that.
Well, I was referring to the entire series, but Nostalgic Bliss is based on her relationship and relationship experiences. Uneasy Thoughts is there's a lot of free verses in here, random thoughts that she's learned throughout the years on various topics.
Okay, that's awesome. I just love the series. And I also love the fact that you've got it in a series, and that you're using similar covers that match her, and her head opened up with different things. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. In the end, as you see on both covers, she's growing. So here she has a little more body to her, and some of the things are actually spaced out and going away. As the series continues, some of the things that's in her head will disappear because she's gotten it out. Some things will stay the same. She will continue to grow within herself as she continues to express everything that she has bottled up. And eventually she'll be full-bodied, and hopefully she'll have hair by the end of the series.
That's fantastic. I just love that. And I'm so happy that you're giving us some of your time today to talk about that. What inspired you for the Speechless series?
Well, I look at people a lot, and people are ashamed of what they've been through in life, where they've come from, scared to express themselves or to talk about things that they've encountered. And that inspired me to do this, because I feel like living in your truth and being who you are is what you who you are. And despite anything you've been through, and despite any obstacle or circumstance, you will be able to turn out okay. It's not a forever situation. You can always change. You can always get better.
That's exactly right. And I think that people love to hear the real talk and hear the real stories, because sometimes we think we're alone when we're going through things, and really we're not. Because if you could just, like you're trying to portray and speak in the Speechless series, if they would just pick up the book and read it, or even watch interviews that you're doing everywhere, they would understand that this is real life. This is what's happening, and they're not alone in this. There's thousands of people that are going through the same thing, and really it could really, it could help people. It could prevent suicide. It could teach them how to get their thoughts out and everything else. I think it's really an awesome thing that you're doing. And I like what you said about transparency, because a lot of us have had to deal with that over the years. We're afraid to tell our stories. We're embarrassed, like you said, to tell what happened to us. And sometimes we are given freedom by expressing it and getting it out and moving on. So I really like that. So what inspired you to do the book?
Well, I've been writing for years, and all of my writings have been something that I experienced or I watched someone else go through. And every time I had a feeling, I always just wrote it down and put it in a format as a poem. And I had this, and a lot of it I've had for a very long time. I just didn't do anything with it. And so that's one of the issues, just fear. Scared to put myself out there, scared to jump into something because I don't want to fail, or I don't want people to think of me in a certain way. And I guess it took time for me to become older and more mature to not really care. So a lot of these things, had I expressed it earlier in life or had someone to talk to, maybe I would have been different or changed a long time ago. Because I've been through a whole lot. I've seen a lot. And each one of these it's like therapy to me. So it's hard. I'm writing Turbulence now, and it's hard to open some of those doors again for some of these things because it's painful. But I've noticed each time I'm able to get some of that out, it's like I'm lighter. I feel better. And then especially when someone reads my book and like, you're talking about me, this is my life. And, and it really sparks a conversation, which helps further, soothe and heal.
Well, I've published 2 books myself, not my life story, but 2 books about my 25-year career as a credit union CEO in a financial institution. But what I found, it was very therapeutic, because I retired. I became an age where I was there 25 years. I retired, and I was lost. I mean, I literally thought that credit union was one of my children. I had my own son, and then I had the credit union that was my daughter. So, I mean, it was like I was giving up everything when I retired. And what I did is I wrote the story of my 25-year career and how we helped people in real life, real talk. And I found it to be very exhilarating, and it really freed me from a lot of things. So I can totally understand why anyone that reads your book is going to really, they can experience the freedom that you are and the freedom that I have, and anyone that does this, but just knowing they're not alone, it's going to be just fantastic, fantastic. How do you feel your series will help other people?
I'm hoping that it would allow other people to be more communicative with their family, their friends, strangers, if you will. Just be able to express yourself. Be honest. Be honest. If people were more honest, the world would be a much better place. Be open, and relationships would be different. I have relationships myself that I don't have anymore, simply because maybe we weren't honest in the relationship, whether it be family, friends, or an intimate relationship. I think that if people really express their true feelings, like, I love you, I'm afraid to lose you, or whatever it may be, that things will be different. So I'm hoping that it will spark other people to be more communicative and communicate their thoughts and be open and honest about who they are and what they're actually feeling.
Well, I read a very interesting comment, and I believe that you may have made this comment. I'm not sure. I wrote it down, but it says, "How can I be a wife when I never had a father?" So, can you
Yes,
kind of talk about, is that your statement, and tell
it
us what
is.
that means and how you go about that? Because if it means what I interpreted it to me, everyone that's never had a father could really use that.
Oh yeah,
So,
definitely. It's actually and it's in Uneasy Thoughts. Um, when I think about my life, because I'm married. This is my second marriage, and my longest relationship. I've been with my husband 15 years now, and in a marriage, of course, you go through ups and downs. But I'm looking at myself as a woman because we've both grown. We're both better people individually and together, and I had to come to terms with me as a woman, and I'm looking at, my I have my mother's example, but she was single. She didn't have a man. It was just her and myself. So it's like, how do I properly be a wife if I've never saw my father? If I never saw how my mother and my father's relationship is? If he never instilled in me what I'm supposed to expect from a man, how am I supposed to cater to my husband if I didn't have that example myself? And
yes,
I mean cater by just in the relationship period, because we set an example for our kids, and we do a wide variety of things with family. It's just our relationship, just him and I were friends. And it's hard when you haven't shown, or well, you haven't been shown a great example altogether.
exactly.
So
And I
you have
really
to
think,
grow with that.
and that's why these real talk or real life books like the Speechless series are so important to everyone, just to pick them up and read them, because we've all been through that. We've all experienced that, and it just helps you to get it out and get it lifted off your shoulders, and it really is. It creates freedom for you, so free to your mind. But also, I believe we may have talked about this in the last interview that I did with hashtag Nostalgic Bliss, is that you have a prison ministry too. Is that true?
Well, I think we discussed it. I have actually, I know a lot of people that has been locked away, and I have no issue with reaching out. I've experienced it myself temporarily, so I know what that life is like. I had to change my life in order, because I was going down a very bad path. So looking back on all of that, I'm just so happy where I am today. And that just follows into what I'm saying about being able to be open and honest about who you are. I think if I had not gone through that myself, I wouldn't be who I am today, because that forced me to change. It forced me to want and do better for myself and my family. So yeah, I love talking to people that are lost, because I consider that as lost. I was lost at one point. I love talking and encouraging people to be better, to do better, there is another way.
Well, there's a lot of need for that too. And what I have a prison ministry myself, and what I like to do is I like to go in and teach them to write their books. And
Mhm.
I'll give them an outline of how to write their books, tell their stories basically, and then we get grant money to try to publish their books. It's really amazing, because it really helps them if they're going through a reentry program, and that gives them some source of income. It really boosts their self-confidence to know that there's someone that they've published a book. So I do that too, and I think it's really great if you've had that experience and you can use that example with them to help them, because so many people are incarcerated, and they just don't have any hope. It's so sad. So when they see people like you writing poems, or people like me that'll come in and teach them how to write their books, their story, it gives them new life, really. And it's very liberating to do that. So and then also, I wanted to talk a little tiny bit about, have you had any speaking engagements or anything like that that you gleaned from your book series?
I did. I've met with a lot of different authors, and we've spoke out on a lot of different interviews. I have 3 book signings in the next 3 weeks. So that is going to be pretty fun, and I'm excited about it. But I love sharing and talking with people. I think this is when you talk about the prison and the prison ministry. I feel like a lot of those people that are there is because they lack something growing up. They lack support. They lack the love that they needed. They lack the proper communication. And not being able to express yourself and have all these things bottled up, it tends to become a storm, if you will.
Yes.
And until you come into interaction with someone that can release that from you and steer you the right way, or hold your hand and walk with you, things won't change. So I love, sharing my experience
That's
because it's
awesome.
important.
So you are available to speak if any of our audience that's going to be watching this hears that. I really want them to know that they can reach out to you, so you can speak to groups and things like that. That will go a long way on promotion of the Speechless series. So I'm happy to hear that. And then also, I'm going to kind of put you on the spot a little bit, and I apologize for that. But would you read us a poem out of one of the books, maybe one of your favorite ones? Would you have time to do that?
Absolutely.
That would be awesome.
Okay. Uneasy Thoughts has a lot of free verses, which are very profound. Let's see. I'm going to read you 2 because these are kind of short.
Okay.
But this one is called I Am Woman. And it says, I must be fed in order to nourish. Which is, if you think about it in retrospect, fed meaning you have to instill in me. What I was just talking about earlier, the support, the love, the guidance. I have to have all of that in order for me to nourish someone else. So that's where that one came from. And then this one is expectation. Quite different from everyone, yet relative as the mood once disappointed. We all have different expectations, but we all feel the same disappointment every time. And when I wrote that one, I thought about my father. We spoke about that previously. When I was younger, he used to call and tell me he was coming to get me, and a lot of times. And I would get dressed and I would get ready, put on my prettiest outfit, and he never showed up. And so when I wrote that, it brought me back to that time. We went shopping one time, and I picked out all this stuff, and he put it on layaway, and it was for Christmas, and I didn't even see him Christmas. So we all have different expectations of things in life, but the mood of being disappointed is the same.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It sure is. It sure is. And I'm not so sure what we don't all have the same expectation, especially in your example of when it comes to our father, especially if they're not in our life. We still want to see them. We still want to be with them.
Yeah.
And many, many times, my friends have shared lots of examples where there was divorce in the family and maybe the father wasn't around. And the children all do the same thing. When they think their father's coming to get them, they always get dressed up. They always wait eagerly, and then something will happen and it'll never show up. Never show up. It's just heartbreaking, and it really does. It's really a huge disappointment to children to grow up like that.
Yes, definitely. And that's something that you carry with you. And with the one that you were talking about previously, how can I be a wife if I've never had a father? It grows with you. I didn't trust men. I mean, that's these things that happen to you when you're young grow with you until you're able to relinquish it and move past it. So all of this taught me and continually to teach me is I'm there for my kids every single step of the way. I mean, from lunch to I'm in every part of their life simply because I experienced this, and I never want them to feel that way. So
Yes, ma'am.
there's a growth process in it all, which is, I think, the best thing, because I couldn't be the mother I am today had I not experienced that for my father.
But you know, I believe we're seeing that. I believe we're seeing that all throughout the family unit, because there was an age. Well, I've been married 46 years, so it wasn't my age, and I'm older than you. But like your age are the ones that really that went through that when you were younger. Y'all's age did, and had pretty poor childhoods. And I had a horrible childhood too with an alcoholic father. And I think that might be why when I got married, I decided I was going to stay married no matter what, because I just saw so much with my own mother and father. But I think that really it's gone full circle. And now we see a lot of people trying to create a better family unit. They may not have the mother and the father, but they're still treating their children like they do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Like you said, you're with your children whenever you can be. You do, you're involved in their life, and I think we've seen that go full circle from probably 10 years ago. It wasn't like that. People were always giving their children up, or they were leaving them with babysitters, or they just weren't taking care of them. And then what happens is it's gone full circle now, where everyone seems to be wanting to be more with their children, and they give up more. And I think that's really strengthening us, as a population. So you hear a lot about that now. You hear a lot about fathers that really are doing things that are extraordinary that really wasn't done 10 years ago. If you think
definitely.
it on the
Things
news.
have definitely changed. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think it's fantastic, and it's awesome that you're thinking along that lines, and you're using your creative mentality to go through all of that. I love that. Well, can you tell us a little bit about how we can reach you, and just promote your book a little bit, so we can make sure everyone is able to get your book and to listen to you speak when you have speaking engagements?
Absolutely. My website is www.thearthurmj.com. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at the Arthur MJ. My events and everything is listed on my website. My books are sold in about 11 locations that's also listed on my website, as well as Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, and Books A Million. And you can also, of course, get them from my website as well.
Okay, well, hold up the books one more time so we can see the beautiful covers. I'm fascinated with the cover. And I like what you said about her growing.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I always like to tell everyone, my middle son, my 17-year-old, drew my book covers.
I remember that from our previous interview. How great is that? Wow.
And yeah, here is my little head here. And so you see there's differences in them, and that's signifying my growth as we continue.
Yes. Well, I appreciate you so much for sharing with us today. We're almost out of time, and I appreciate you so much. I thank you for reaching back out to me. I know everyone's going to be just ready to hear more about the Speechless series and ready to read the second book. So thank you so much for joining me today and giving me some time. Okay, Miss Jackson?
Thank you for having me. And also, if you could repeat one more time where we can go and donate.
Okay, it's WYTV7, Christian Broadcasters Network, and you can find them on Facebook, or if you go to their webpage, WYTV7. They're in Charlotte, North Carolina, and they have a donate button on all of that. So that would be awesome. And, $5 of a donation just goes a long way. Definitely. When you're a nonprofit, because we can use that to promote all of these broadcasts. And we have, like I say, we have a lot of listeners internationally now, so I'm real excited about that. And all I want to do is for you to shine your light and get your information out there, so you can have more success and you can help more people. So, absolutely. Thank you so much, and y'all have a great day. I appreciate you joining us. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Shine, shine, shine your light. Shine, shine, shine your light.